think it was helpful to look at that because we need to know what the so-called highly esteemed institutions are saying about things, and then we can look at what actual research papers are saying about things with regards to stereotypical thinking, because I want to get down to the nitty-gritty of the exact processes, because I'm seeing a lot of, like what we've just read, making it look as though the individual is deliberately doing these things, or they're born with these things because of their skin color and stuff like this, you know, like what the Marxists are coming out with regards to CRT, critical race theory, and all the rest of it, right? And this so-called unconscious bias and whatnot. So we're seeing a lot of ideology mixed in with facts, so as to steer people into blaming themselves unnecessarily, and all the rest of it. So I just want to get to the facts, and I think it was good for us to look at how bad Marxism has gotten into our institutions when we look at that paper in particular, you know, what we just read. Would you agree, or am I alone in thinking that?
I don't understand. I'm here. I can't understand this Marxist. How does that apply to the way people think? Can you explain that?
Well, I don't know what you mean.
Well, you said something about Marxist theory.
Not Marxist theory, critical race theory. Have you heard of that?
No.
Okay, let me see if I can find something out. It's where basically they're saying that white people are inherently racist, for example.
Oh, I see.
All right. And they're imposing this, well, they have been imposed. It's a conceptual framework developed to understand relationships between social conceptions of race and ethnicity in the United States, social and political laws, and mass media, right? So that's just a little thing that I've just read there about it. So they've basically brought critical race theory and stuff like that into the workplace, into schools, and they're teaching it to kids as if it's facts. And it's basically they're causing more prejudice by putting it into people's minds that they are racist because they're white. So then white people have this so-called white guilt. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I think I'll tell you an example of something which I heard. This was an article written in Arabic about the Arabs. So they're not white like the white people. They're not dark like the Africans. Their in color is in between, and so they are the right color. And some would consider themselves to be perfect because they are the right color. So it's a prejudice, if you like. This article was saying they hold because they are the right kind of race or the right kind of color. So I think it is among all races, or we have prejudices that we are the better people. But you're saying the whites feel inferior because they feel they have a racism ingrained in them.
No, but they're being programmed with that by the Marxists and their identity politics. That's what they've been pushing in schools and in workplaces and stuff.
So Marxist is an ideology which is pushed by certain people who hold this ideology. They might be even white people in schools in Britain. Is that what you're saying?
All across the West, that's been happening.
All across us West, but they're themselves white, but they feel the white people are prejudiced inherently.
I don't know what they feel, okay, but they've been imposing that. They've been programming children with that, and they've been pushing this ideology in workplaces and other educational institutions and throughout healthcare and other such places, and thus causing more bias and more prejudices and discrimination than there was before they started this nonsense.
I see. Okay. Since I'm not in a educational system, so I don't know what's going on really. But you think they are actually bringing these ideas into the school room?
No, they've already brought it in, and it's being
Okay.
rolled out now because of the damage that's been done by it.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. And you think these ideas came from Karl Marx originally?
I don't know if they came from Karl Marx,
but it's Marxism.
but as far as the cultural Marxists and with their identity politics is concerned, it's all in with what they're doing these days. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I don't know anything about it, so I'm finding it quite puzzling, really. Okay. Interesting.
Lieutenant, have you ever heard of the Frankfurt School?
Not sure why.
Nagar, have you heard of the Frankfurt School?
No.
Yeah, look them up if you ever get a moment. It's to do with what you're saying.
Oh,
like, okay, basically after World War II, there were these communist people in Frankfurt, like, who said, right, how do we stop Germans thinking that they are Aryan or superior? Okay?
I see.
Okay. How do we do this? And they came up with these kind of racial theories and things. They wanted that. They said these guys, and these were all academics. It's all there. If you check out, honestly, go on Google, put up Frankfurt School.
Okay.
They said, right, we got to remove the idea that there's a super race, and what all the stuff Hitler had said.
Okay.
They were attacking basically kind of his theories, right? Just I that's all I know. It's called the Frankfurt School, 1950 something. If you've never looked it up, look it up.
Okay.
But these people were sort of Marxist, social Marxists, and social Darwinists and stuff as well.
Oh, I see.
I mean, for me, again, I'm going to give an opinion now, Lieutenant. Sorry if you agree or disagree.
Okay.
But this is just why religion or God, the soul and things, and the spiritual nurture overrides all this stuff. That's just my opinion and what I found. Because
so what do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, I mean, like all these things. I mean, I think you don't kind of look at it in the same way as before. I think, like, whatever. I don't know what I'm saying. I don't want to throw a hand grenade in there and cause trouble. I have to think carefully what I'm saying. I just think if you think spiritually about all things, like, your mind goes to some other place. That's my conclusion I have.
So when you think spiritually, what does
about
that
all
mean?
Things.
What does that mean to think spiritually?
For me, the dunya is cursed, and that's the lowest form and level. So I do all I can to avoid it at all costs and to not even think about it. So, like when you said earlier, what was it? The competing for, was it material? Was that in the previous slide? Do you remember the thing? There was competition in resources. I'm sure I heard that in the previous. Do you know the website?
Competing, but it wasn't necessarily about material things.
Yeah, but I mean.
Anyway,
yeah,
what
okay,
is it to think? What is it to think spiritually? What do you mean by that?
Just think things like race or differences or things like that, like the fruits of the spirit and these things. Like, your mind doesn't go to those things. That's what I found. And that's how every day.
Can you describe spirit though? What do you mean by spirit? What do you mean to think spiritually? What is that?
Well, with the books again, the books of the prophets, what their teachings are and
No,
guidance.
but no, I don't want to hear about what's in their teachings. I want to hear about what you think that means.
Okay, well, I can. All right, let me think how to. I'm trying to articulate it.
Yeah,
Because I
take your
don't want to
time.
take it away from the topic, Lieutenant, too much. I just, as I
That's
said,
that's
I
okay.
started it by saying it's an opinion, right? It's what I think, so it's subjective to me.
Yes.
But like things that promote love, joy, patience, right, or peace, things that can bring about kindness and goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, and things centered around that, right? That's a very crude definition.
Right. So what kind of things keep you grounded in those attributes?
Well, I know the things that keep me away from them. I know what blinds me or distracts me from those things. I can define that.
Right.
So yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So does any of those things entail spiritual thinking?
Well, I think to get fruitful in those things, it's a spiritual attribute or a spiritual condition. It's not a worldly. It's not a carnal, or it's not a lower nature in order to get better at those things. That's what I would say.
Right. So it's nothing that you can see, like material. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would say that world is definitely not. These two, I don't think, can be bridged easily, or they're not the same. They're not of the same place. The origins of them aren't the same.
Right. So spirit. Let's not go too far off. Spiritual thinking. That's what I'm wanting to understand.
Yeah.
What you mean? What do you mean, spiritual thinking? So it's nothing that you can see, right? It's thinking, though. Yeah. So therefore, it happens in your head. Is that correct?
I think it's like between the head, the heart, and something else. But it's hard to explain that something else. That's just my experience of it. But the heart, the head, and
because the heart, we know fully about the heart and its function, right? The brain, we don't, right? There's a lot of different parts of the brain and its functions and what goes on in there that we have barely scratched the surface of. But the heart is simply about pumping blood and other such fluids around the body. Okay, so the spiritual thinking, what is that?
I'm thinking more like kind of maybe like kind of emotions, moral will, maybe also like an intellect too. That's what I'm kind of thinking in the heart.
So that's just thinking. You don't think with your heart, you think with your brain.
Yeah, but the logic
right. Hold on a minute.
Not...
I'm just gonna welcome our top star who hasn't been for a while, Banksy.
Oh, hi, Banks. Hello.
Hello, my lovelies. I'm so sorry. I'm in the middle of your conversation. I just realized that I just saw the message. I'm about an hour late, so I apologize. Yes. I completely forgot about the show. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Right. Welcome. Well, I'm just going to try and get Ravioli to explain to us what he means by spiritual thinking. So yes, sorry. Go ahead, Ravioli.
Okay. Yeah. No. I mean, I just say. Perhaps then I'm trying to think of a different way to put it. So these things I lifted: the love, joy, the peace, the patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Perhaps define them. Maybe if we define what they are, then that would be, like, for me, a spiritual way of thinking. Again, Lieutenant, it's just my definition here. You know, I can be. I mean, I'm wrong about lots of things in life, but this is just something I find that sits sort of in a balance. It keeps things going every day for me, but perhaps defining those things might help. Understanding what each of those things are maybe might help get an understanding of spiritual thinking. I don't know.
That might, if you learn the actual definition of those words, you might come to find precisely what you mean by spiritual thinking, and thus be able to articulate.
I think as well, if you I don't know if you take from the New Testament, or I don't know if you take from these books. I think some of that might be in there as well.
Right. Well, if you find what it is that you're trying to explain when you stay spiritual thinking, then
I
let us
definitely
know.
think those things
I just want to close it down. I don't want to go on about it too much because it's, once you've articulated what you mean, then
I think from memory, Galatians maybe chapter 5 or 4, one of them talks.
I'm not going into any of that. When you find it, right, and you can articulate what you mean, then let us know. So,
okay, but I think that's a good reference for people there if they want.
Anyway, we're not here to do Bible studies or anything, right? We're talking about stereotypical thinking, right? So when you find what it is that you actually mean when you say spiritual thinking, because the heart doesn't think, just so you know, right? The heart pumps blood and other such fluids around the body. Your brain thinks, and there's different parts of the brain. There's the emotional mind, there's the logical mind, there's the wise mind, there's the computer mind. There's lots of different functions that we've only just scratched the surface of, right? So hang on, Ravioli, I'm not going on about this, right? We've only got 20 minutes left.
Yeah, I've spoken. Not
Ravioli, when you found the way to articulate what you mean about spiritual thinking, then let us know.
Lieutenant, okay. I'll say one thing and I'll be quiet next 20 minutes, all right? Like, if I said to you the heart could be like a moral center, would you agree with that?
I'm not discussing that. We're here to discuss stereotypical thinking.
All right, but if I said where you choose between good and evil,
we're talking, life and death. No, Ravioli. We're here to discuss stereotypical thinking.
Fair enough.
So, Ravioli, Nagar and Banksy, do you have anything that you would like to add about stereotypical thinking? Do you have any thoughts on the matter, actually, Banksy?
Well, I apologize. I'm very, very, very late to this conversation. I was happy to just listen a little bit longer just to get to grips where you guys are at. I mean, all I can say is stereotypical thinking is stereotypes. I mean, I think you guys may have covered this, but stereotypes are essentially based in some degree of truth, something that people have observed. And if they see something repeatedly, an action or some procedure happen repeatedly with a certain system or person, then they take that to be intrinsic to that maybe person or that group of people or that particular thing, phenomena. And they just expect that to happen. Sorry, am I going on?
Can anybody hear me?
Yeah,
I can hear you. Hello, Nagar.
Gosh, I've been talking for quite a bit, but for some reason I couldn't be heard. Anyway,
go ahead.
No, I have nothing to add, Lieutenant.
Okay, we'll continue with what you were saying, Banksy.
Well, that was my understanding. If I see some phenomena occur multiple times with a person, group of people, or a system, then I would assume, in a shortcut sense, that this thing's going to happen again if I encounter this. So if I see, I don't know, if I see lions tearing up gazelles. Oh, sorry, it sounds like I'm looping with someone here. There we go. Thank you, Nagar. Yeah. If I see lions, tearing into gazelles and eating animals and ripping them apart, then over time, or if I see them killing humans, then I guess we over time recognize and we develop a fear of lions. We develop fears of snakes, even though I've never been bitten by a snake. In fact, I don't think I've even held a snake. But there is an innate fear about snakes in us because we've, over centuries and decades, we've intrinsically learned that they are dangerous. And I guess that's the same with everything else. We develop. I think stereotypes are simply our human brain shortcut to danger and aware, and we just take it. Unfortunately, in this day and age, we're being told that we should ignore our instincts and pretend that things that we've, established as things that we should be wary of, that we shouldn't be. We should override our baser instincts because of diversity and inclusion.
Okay, so that brings us to where we'd left off from the article that I read, which you've mentioned diversity, inclusion, and equity, the thing that's come of, is that cultural Marxism? Have I got it right with that, Banksy? Is that something that's
yeah, some people would say postmodern is cultural Marxist kind of ideology. It's rooted in that.
Hey, Lieutenant, can I ask Banksy something a minute? Hang on, can I ask him something?
Sure.
But Banksy, have you heard of the Frankfurt School in the 1950s? Did you ever hear of that?
Yes, but please enlighten me.
No, I can't. I was just wondering if you could help me out. I know it's something to do with this.
Yeah, I've heard. I've heard of what you're saying, but I forgot what it came out of it. But I have definitely. I don't know. It was maybe Sargon or someone said something about that. The Frankfurt School, but I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of Marxist ideology. I don't know. Is it a center for Marxist ideology or something? I don't know. I have to look into it, I guess, if you don't know. It's just a vague thing that I've heard online.
Okay, so yeah, going off what you were saying there, Banksy, you ended with the diversity, inclusion, equity thing, right, of cultural Marxism, and that ties in with what I'd assumed, certainly from the last article that I read, well, the only article that I've read through tonight, and it was something that has been written and is posted on mental health talk and therapy provider of Harley Street, London, right, where one would assume they have the best information and they provide the best care because they're like so expensive, and typically they only hire the best specialists and all the rest of it. Certainly that's what's assumed, and is what one's stereotypical thoughts might present one with. However, what I noticed in their article was a lot of stuff that was alluding to, like, say, something that would feed into and validate the critical race theory thing that they were pushing in schools and in workplaces, and certainly throughout the public services in the UK and around the entire Western world, actually, until it started to be removed and rolled back. And that was, they seem to, I devised from that article that they're using and manipulating and distorting the facts around stereotypical thinking, and they're being very sparing with the information so as to only use the parts that would feed into diversity, equity, and inclusion, and say critical race theory and other such mechanisms that I think they're using to be able to control us by compartmentalizing us, whether it's the community, the family, the entire individual, and whatnot. So that's interesting that you've said that. When Banksy, you said about how one would develop stereotypes by what one sees a lot of happening. Could you elaborate on that more? Have you thought in depth about that, about what your brain might actually be doing with information that's going in, which is, you know, the information that's going in is like data going into a computer, right? It's just inputting everything that it comes across. Do you have any kind of understanding on the specifics of that? It, like, how the brain functions, the specifics of it. Sorry, go ahead, Francie.
I mean, I don't. I mean, I'm sure there must be people who have got great details of how your brain would actually function. My basic understanding is we operate on a basic of fear and safety. So I think on our baser brain essentially operates on, is this safe? Is this dangerous? And which side of the fence should I be on this particular matter? And the rest of it all sort of stems from that. So stereotypes are usually built on, as I said, repetitive behavior of a certain thing or repetitive phenomena, and you say, okay, this thing does this. So if I'm just going to go into it. If I see a bunch of black youths in the street with hoodies, and if it's at night, then I'm gonna be much more wary than if I see a couple of old ladies in walking with their Zimmer frames. If I see a bunch of, I mean, I said black, but to be honest with you, it could be any youth these days. It's just a bunch of young men with hoodies or balaclavas. I'm gonna be like, okay, I better avoid this. Should I cross the road? Should I go into the car? Whatever. If I see a couple of old ladies, I don't really think twice about it. If I see, I don't know. I mean, if I see an Iranian get on a plane with a giant backpack and a wire out of his hand holding a button, I'm going to think twice about taking that flight.
Yeah.
And I said Iranian so that no one can come at me. But you know what I mean.
Yeah. I
Basically,
get it.
any dude screaming Allahu Akbar at an airport, I'm gonna leave for that day. I'm gonna get the next flight.
Yeah, and especially if they've got brand new shoes and they're well dressed. It was noted, I think I read it somewhere about 15 years ago when they were talking about like what to look out for at airports and stuff like that, and they were talking about how these individuals present themselves when they do go to do these things, like on an airplane and stuff. They typically are the best groomed that they've ever been in their life, because they're wanting to look their best for what they're martyring themselves for. And their shoes are brand new and all highly polished and all the rest of it. And so these kinds of things could be alarm bells for one.
Yeah,
and
but what
one
I'm
would
saying
store
is
that as stereotypical information.
It's just mental shortcuts to the world that you see. If you see certain group or certain people or certain animals do this thing, then I'm going to be, I mean, if you see, horses. Here's a simple one. Would I stand behind a horse and approach a horse from behind? No, because horses are known to kick the living crap out of people, and they can kick you across the room. So, I've seen that. I've never had it done to me, thank goodness.
Yeah.
But I can recognize that, and I created a stereotype in my head. Do not approach a horse from behind. You're likely to get kicked across the room. It's just basics of life. Again, safety and security. You're thinking about, is this safe? Is this going to keep me in the safe zone, or is this going to put me in danger? And these are just the primal examples of like obvious stereotypes. Of course, there are subtle stereotypes with various different things as well. If I see some group of people behaving in a, I don't know, they don't pay attention to the things they do. So you're at an office and you see repetitive behavior of a certain colleague that's just not, they're just not pulling their weight, or they just don't do it. And another person of that same ethnic group comes and does the same behavior, then you're like, okay, you may develop, it may be false, because the third one or the fourth one might be amazing and they'll do everything. But if you develop a psychology of, okay, this group of people tend to be lazy. A prime example, fat people. Fat people get subconscious discrimination from employers, because they think they're lazy. And that may not be true. I myself am a chubby of the chubbier side, but I'm a bloody good employee. My managers love me. But the fact is that, yeah, there may have been times where I didn't get a job because I had a bit of a belly. I don't know, but that is a possibility.
It's interesting that you say that, because I don't know if you remember Katie Hopkins's view on employing overweight people. She basically says don't do it because you can't trust them with, like, say, the office celebration cake and stuff like this. She was literally serious about it as well.
There you go. There you go.
Now, that is a stereotypical perspective on overweight people, isn't it? Or fat people, or however you want to refer to them. But it, like you say, we need to manage our stereotypical thinking, I think, because they can be useful. Like, say, in the event that there's a group of youths in the night with hoodies on, like the example you gave, Banksy, they might actually be a threat. So it certainly would pay, just to prevent any potential risk, to cross over the road and continue your journey, as opposed to try to walk close to them, because who knows, they might try to harm you, but they might not. So it's best to do that without appearing to discriminate against them as well, because you don't want anyone to feel bad when they actually aren't doing anything wrong.
Yeah, but the fact is that it's all down to, nowadays people are telling you to override that instinct and say, no, don't judge them. They may not, they're just a perfectly nice bunch of, roadmen. They're just young youths. And it's like, well, I'm sorry. In modern, whether you like it or not, if I'm on my own, or even if I'm with, family or wife and kids or girlfriend, no, I'm not taking that chance. I'm crossing the road. I don't care if it offends them. I'm crossing the road because that is what life has taught me. That is the experiences that I've had, and I would rather not take that chance. And it's, it might be that the two old ladies with the Zimmer frames kick the shit out of me. I may be completely calling that one off wrong, but afterwards I'll be in hospital going, man, I called that one wrong. I was way off. Those women were vicious. But the bottom line is, I'm still not taking any chances with a bunch of young youths with hoodies and balaclavas. It is the way it is.
Yeah. So it is best to stick with those thoughts. I think, like, it doesn't harm to be mindful about them, to, consider them, as opposed to just act on them instantly, right? In most cases, I mean, I don't know, there may be cases where it could do you harm to not act on them instantly. I'm trying to think of any possible examples of that. I don't know, if someone, like, is in a bank and they've got a gun and they're saying, everybody get down. You're going to get down. You're not going to think, no, wait a minute, this guy just needs a hug. Like a cultural Marxist might want you to think, You
see, this is exactly the issue that we find ourselves, I think, with for example, immigration. Is the people are constantly telling you to override your instincts. I know a person from the Middle East. I know the people of the Middle East. I know the different levels of psychotic and degeneracy that comes out of that part of the world. So when I say to someone, don't let these people in, I know where I'm coming from, because I've got past experience. Whilst there are people who have no experience of that, and then I know, but they are, but you can't say not, you can't say all. Always somebody comes out with it and says not all. And yes, I am of the Middle East. I know that is not all, but there's a lot.
Yes.
So
a lot more than other places.
Yeah, but just don't take the chances. I personally would put a ban on any country who has more than 30% cousin marriages. If your society is practicing first cousin marriages, you're most likely going to have very, very low IQ individuals who have got some serious psychological issues. It's my thing, but I'm not running the world.
Smooth moderator.